Sadistik and Kno have just dropped the second single for their upcoming collaborative project with the track Godmode. And seeing as this is basically a follow-up to Phantom Limbs, one of my favorite projects in recent memory, it's only right that I go bar for bar and break down these lyrics. If you're new here, these breakdowns are where I go through and read out the lyrics to a song and give my interpretation of what the artist is trying to say. My interpretations are often incorrect and I tend to miss things. So, if I have missed something or misinterpreted anything, please let me know in the comments below. That way everyone gets to learn something. Especially with artists like Sadistik, because his references are way out there and they just go right over my head. So, we start with the first verse.
Rainfall, rainfall, coming to the paint's gone. Wash away the small talk, cutting me like chainsaws. AWOL, change blue views with the cray paws. Sketch it with cray guns embedded in K guns.
So, the rainfall is coming until the pain's gone. So, rain is often seen as like a negative thing. People are, when they're sad, it's raining, or they're sad because it's raining. But this rain is going to keep coming down until whatever is paining this person, or even Sadistik, like until that pain is gone. It's going to just keep coming down until it washes away all the small talk. That's cutting him like chainsaws. So the small talk, he just doesn't care for. It's painful. He hates it. But this rain is basically, you can think of it like it's distracting him from the small talk. It could also be that like if you're outside and it starts raining and someone's talking to you, you're going to be like, I'm going to go inside now because it's raining. Or they're going to do the same because most people don't like being out in the rain. AWOL change blues with the cray paws. Cray paws are like pastel crayons, I believe. So you're changing these blue views, these negative thoughts, into something else. Oftentimes, I feel like, you know, if you're in therapy, or one way to deal with something that's going on, or just kind of stress relief in some way, is to draw how you're feeling. So maybe that's where he's going with that. And then all these sketches that he's done with crayons are going to just be embedded in the chaos. It's just going to be like, all right, here it is. Like it's going to mesh with what's going on around him.
I'm better than they gonna make sure that they all taste salt when they utter my name. Make them number like a migraine. Linger put in my brain. Why change when there's none of my lane? I rain while.
So he's continuing on, and it's almost like the first 4 lines are initial thoughts, and then he's like going back and he's like, no, I'm better than they are. And he's going to make sure that they all taste salt. To me, that's like when you cry tears, like sometimes they're salty. But he wants to make sure that he's going to let everyone know that he's better than they are. And because of how much better he is, they're going to cry. Then this migraine that he has under his brain is, and he's like, why change? I don't know if it's necessarily a literal migraine, because migraines are awful. But I think what he's saying here is this migraine is all these thoughts that are like, yo, you should do this, you should do that. But he's like, no, why should I change? Because I'm the best at what I do. There's no one else in my lane that I reign in. Like, he is the best in his lane.
Drop slide down just to wash my crown deluge. When the god cries out, they choose to be moth-like bound. I knew my noose was a teardrop shape on an off-white clown.
So these drops from the rain are falling down, washing his head, washing his crown. It could be like it's just kind of clearing his mind too. Deluge when the god cries out. So it's like a huge flood when God gets upset. And then they choose to be moth-light bound. I don't know if he's talking about the gods or the people that he's better than, or just people in general. Like they're just going to flock to the light. Like whatever is going on, like they're going to go towards the light rather than stay in the darkness in the rain. And then he knew his noose was a teardrop shape on an off-white clown. So a couple things, carrying on the rain and tears idea. You have a teardrop noose. That is also kind of the shape of a noose, but he also equates that to the tears of like a sad clown. Like you've probably seen a picture or two of a clown crying. At least that's what came to my head. Another thing you can think of with off-white clown is all the people, like hype beasts that are just kind of like not the hype beasts that you like, you know, like the ones that only wear off-white and they think they're better than you, like that sort of clown.
Watch them grow in the trees that I roll for relief. When I smoke disappear, then I'm gone in a blink. On my spit and the pearls, and I broke it in pieces. Take on my skull just to soak it in bleach.
All this water, all this flooding, all this rain is helping to grow into trees, like literal trees, but also like weed. And he uses that to, smoke it and get some relief. And him being gone in a blink is just him like he's physically probably still there, but mentally he's elsewhere. And all his spit turned to pearls, then I broke into pieces. I don't know where he's going with that. And then take out his skull just to soak it in bleach. I don't know what that means either. Maybe he's just trying to cleanse his brains. Like, it's not his brain, it's his skull. But like, you can kind of think of skull, crown, brain, just all in the same area. So he's like, all right, take my skull out, cleanse it. And maybe the trees are helping with that.
All I ever wanted was the pain to appease. I'm afraid all I got was a change of the seasons. Make me believe in the phase of the beast I release when I trace it in cement and leave it.
So all he wanted was the pain to appease, I'm afraid. All I got was a change of the seasons. So he wanted the pain to appease is kind of like he wants to please the pain, or he wants the pain to feel good, but all he got was the change of the seasons. At least that's what I got from it. I mean, some people are sadistic and like the pain, so maybe that's where he's going with it.
The rain makes the leaves wet, buried under sea level. Stayed on the defense, maybe get the sheet devil. Toxic, so toxic, I'm not interested. I live in the underground, walking with lepers.
So yeah, the rain makes leaves wet, and they're buried under sea level. The leaves could also just be something else entirely, like, especially if you're saying buried under sea level, like whatever's down below is also getting wet. So you could also go with like leaves on a tree, like the tree's roots are so deep they're like below sea level, and all this rain is soaking down to get to those leaves, essentially. He stayed on the defense to ward off the she-devils, and these she-devils have toxic tox, so he's just not interested in that at all. He's like, no, that's not for me. He's just gonna stay down below, underground, walking with the lepers. Lepers have, at least historically, been, I guess, neglected and thought of as like you should stay away. For some reason, I kind of equate them to the ghouls from Fallout, which is kind of messed up now that I think about it. But I think that's kind of what they were trying to do with Fallout. Like, the ghouls are kind of like meant to be people who were afflicted by, well, the radiation in that case, but they're afflicted by something, and people are like, nah, I'm stay away from you. When in reality, they're just regular people.
Oxygen levels are not a persona non grata. I author stigmata, armadas of trauma. I'll burn with the gods, I'm a martyr, then turn it to autumn, sonata, day nada.
So oxygen levels down below are non-existent for unwelcomed people, persona non grata. He authors stigmata, armadas of trauma. Like, in his writings, this is what he's explaining, what he writes about. He'll burn with the gods, I'm a martyr. Martyrs are generally thought of as holy people who die for holy causes. At least if you really go back about it. Now it's just anyone who dies for a particular cause that they really truly believe in, and generally is accepted by most as a good belief.
They sat on the marquee, I'm dodging the heartbeats. A part of me's lost, so I follow the heartbeats. If I'm made of water that comes from the rain, then the waves that I'm on are a part of my body. Godmode.
Marquis de Sade was a French nobleman, I guess, and philosopher, and a writer. I don't quite know how much that plays into the heartbeats bit, but part of him is so lost that he follows the heartbeats. So he's just kind of following his intuition, I guess you could say. Like, he's following these heartbeats, like his heartbeats, like whatever his heart is telling him to do. But he could also be like following the heartbeats of others, like whatever it feels like everyone else is kind of doing, or what he kind of links with, I guess. If I'm made of water that comes from the rain, then the waves that I'm on are part of my body, Godmode. So he's Poseidon. But also, I mean, if he's made of the water that comes from the rain, which this whole verse has been talking about, rain, then the waves that he's on, like these waves of whatever, I mean, if it's literal waves or emotions, feelings, like they're all part of him. So, and then he equates that to God mode. I forgot to mention earlier, but whenever I think of God mode, I think of like God mode in video games where you're just unkillable. I don't think that's where he's going with it, at least with the video game part. Maybe he is going with the unkillable bit, but who knows? This then goes into his second verse.
Downpour, downpour, tell me what you drown for. Precipitate tears, then I wait till the clouds form monsoon. Whether they got flocked together, same feather, peacock, blue, neon hue, free on groove.
So he kind of carries on the same rhyme scheme as the beginning with the downpour, downpour, tell me what you drown for. So similar, rainfall, rainfall. And now he's more asking, it sounds like he's asking someone else, like, what would you drown for? Like, is there something that you stand for so strongly that you're willing to drown for it? Precipitate tears, then I wait till the clouds form. I mean, yeah, I guess that makes sense. So clouds generally form because of water on the ground heating up and going back into the sky. So these tears that seems like he has are so much that the clouds are going to form from them. Monsoon weather, they all flock together, same feather. Monsoons are rainy seasons, like just extreme rain, essentially. And when there's a monsoon, like everyone just kind of sticks together. And then carry on the same feather bit with a peacock, blue neon hue from Freon Grew. One that's a callback to the first verse, again, with the blue views. But this, he's essentially describing a peacock. It's got some blue on it, but it's not necessarily neon. So this peacock is like glowing, and this neon is likely from the Freon, like the thing that like refrigerators run on.
Frostbitten balls tossed to the shore, talk to the ghosts when they knock on my door. Got lost in the snow with the pocket of posy, posthumous flow from the god of the lonely.
So carrying on this cold, rainy, and now frozen, these frostbitten bones are tossed to the shore. For me, I think frostbite is just when you're in the snow, and there's not really a shore there at all times. So it could be like this. These frostbitten bones are like a mummified body that's super deep underwater, and it's just kind of washed ashore. And then he's talking to the ghost when they knock on his door, which kind of goes into the whole God bit that he's pulling. Got lost in the snow with a pocket of posy. Ring around the rosy. I don't know. Again, like the snow bit, I think is just from the frostbitten line and carrying on this coldness. So I don't know how that ties into the pocket of posy. And then posthumous flow from the god of the lonely. So all these ghosts that are coming to his door, these frostbitten bones, they got a flow to them. So you could think of it as they're all basically giving him ideas, and he's using their words to make these raps. Or it's like his flow is deadly, and he is the god of the lonely. Or the god of the lonely is someone else that's come to him.
You watch when he glows in the dark and the insects come, get stuck in the fishnet, tongue press luck to the kismet, humps kiss death when the lips left numb on the voodoo doll when the pins get stuck. So
the god of the lonely, I'm assuming, is the one that glows in the dark and the insects come. Insects are often attracted to light, and I think that was another reference from the beginning as well. Yeah, that was another callback to the beginning where he mentioned the moths that are light bound. That's cool. That's something that not a whole lot of artists can do very well, like just tie in the two verses, but it's sadistic. And then they are getting stuck in the fishnet tongue. Maybe it's not the insects that are getting stuck in the fishnet tongue, but just something's getting stuck in the fishnet. So they're basically just pressing their luck in that fishnet until fate decides what's going to happen to them. They're going to kiss death when the lips are left numb on a voodoo doll. So there's a voodoo doll. So these insects could just be people. They're caught in a net somehow because they're attracted to this light. And they're getting the kiss of death just from a voodoo doll. Like there's something that's controlling what's going on. Possibly.
And the pain wouldn't wane, so I stayed in the gray with the misspent love. Won't play the charades, it's a dangerous game. Two graves that I made while I rained on parades in the eye of the storm where the tides are enormous. So the pain that's continuing on from all this rain and the emotion, it's not going away. So he just kind of stayed in the gray with a misspent love. So, I mean, that's something that I feel
people with depression or negative thoughts often do. Like, there's like this feeling, and it's not even necessarily depression, just like if you're not feeling great, like this feeling is not going away. So you're just like, fuck it, I'll just stay here then. Like, I guess this is my life now. And he won't play their charades as a dangerous game. Like, the other people out there, like, he's not gonna try to be like them, not try to, which I mean, it might have helped, I guess. Like, if you're gonna go out and be with other people, it can help you be positive again, possibly. And then he made 2 graves while he rained on parade. So carrying on the rain line, or rain idea, and then also just the 2 graves that he made. Like, because he's not playing their charades, and it, like, he's alive, but maybe those charades had killed somebody. Like, all these, going through the movements, they died because of that. Or because he didn't participate, he wasn't able to save those people, and now they're in the grave. And then continuing on the whole, him being part of the water and the storm, like he's in the eye of the storm where the tides are enormous, like he's part of it. But also, that's what rained on these parades.
Size on the shoulder, the mind is a fortress, light from the smolder, providing the warmth while I live by the pen, rather die by the sword. My God, I'm lost in the height of the fog.
Ice on the shoulder, the chip on your shoulder. Speaking of which, I need to ice my shoulder. But the mind is a fortress. So he has a chip on his shoulder, but the mind is a fortress. Oftentimes when people have a chip on their shoulder, they are very reluctant to kind of get rid of it. So their mind is locked down. They're like, nah, they did me dirty. I'm never gonna forgive them. Light from the smolder providing the warmth. So smoldering like a campfire or some sort of fire. It's enough to keep them warm. And he's like, why live by the pen, rather die by the sword? My God, I'm lost in the height of the fog. So this is a thought, maybe like one of those thoughts from the migraine earlier. Like, man, why even write down what's going on? I'd rather just fight. But, and kind of play on the pen is mightier than the sword idea. But then he comes back and he's like, my God, I'm lost in the height of the fog. Like, this fog, which might be literal fog around him and he can't see, or he just has a foggy head. Like, he's like realizing what he's saying or thinking. And he's like, nah, that's crazy.
Time stops when it grinds to a halt. Find what I lost, died on a cross. Price for the arms, right highlights as a shrine for the god. Shine bright like a light in a tunnel while I lie in the rubble.
Time stops when it grinds to a halt. Yeah. I don't know what else could be grinding to a halt other than the time. Like, it's just, whoa, relax. Find what he lost, died on a cross. Price of the alms. So whatever he lost is on the cross, maybe. Write highlights as a shrine for the god, shine bright. So these highlights being like what's going on, or like the highlight reel for the gods. And then shine bright like a light in the tunnel when I lie in the rubble. So he's almost being like that light in the darkness. Like, again, going into the whole God mode thing, like he's in God mode. So maybe he is the light, and he's the light that's providing for others. So people are looking for him, but he's in the rubble. So he needs help from others to get out of that rubble.
They admire the struggle, I'm trapped in cocoons with the lightning and thunder that I had in my jugular, providing my blood for the Draculas to come die in the mud, cut ties with the sun.
They admire the struggle while he's trapped in cocoons. So kind of continuing on that trapped in the rubble sort of bit. Like, everyone, like his fans maybe, are like, they're admiring him. They're like, yeah, look at this, you're doing great. Like, and they love his music, of course, but he's also kind of dealing with stuff on his own. Like, he's trapped. Like, there's something stopping him. And then this cocoon is also, I guess, muffling the sound of his lightning and thunder that he's hiding in his jugular. Like, his voice. Like, this booming voice that he has is, like, basically just halted by the cocoon and the rubble. And then he goes on and says, his blood is providing for Draculas to come die in the mud-cut ties of the sun. Vampire lines. It's like a bloodletting. People just want his blood. Don't know what else he could be going with there.
Only clouds come out when it's time for the flood. Ultraviolet flux, I decline in a flash. Why define what is nothing when I can just ash? God mode.
Only clouds come out when it's time for the flood. Yeah, sure. I mean, continuing on that whole downpour and flooding idea. Ultraviolet flux, a decline in flash, like a light flash. Like ultraviolet is like UV light. It just kind of comes, and he like that flash is just where he declines. Like if he is to be the light, this ultraviolet light is brighter than him, and he just disappears essentially. But then he's like, why define what is nothing when I'm just ash? So he's like burned alive. Like this ultraviolet light has burned him. Or maybe the light in the rubble is him burning too, because there's the smoldering fire as well. That's the song. It's great. Honestly, I really do like this song, and anytime Sadistik and Kno come together, I know it's gonna be great. Even with the last track, Neptune Skin, like it was solid. Like it's a dope track, and I can't wait for this album. Obviously, there are things that I've missed, and as I've gone through, I mentioned it. So, like I've said it before, and let me know in the comments below if I missed something or misinterpreted anything. Also, let me know what you thought of this track in general. I thought it was dope. I thought it was enjoyable. But let me know what you think. Also, like and subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Thank you for watching, and please stay safe out there.